Don't say a word. Keep that mouth shut. No explanations, no defenses, no justifications. You don't need them. They've already decided who you are. They've already written your story in their heads. Pages filled with lies, misunderstandings, and assumptions that they swear are true. And you sat there, silent. You let them talk. Let them twist things. Let them paint you in colors that don't belong to you. And guess what? Your silence was louder than any scream. See, people love to act like they want the truth, like they're these deep, understanding creatures who just want to hear your side. But you and I both know that's a joke, don't we? They don't want your side. They want a villain. They want someone to blame, someone to point at and whisper about when the lights go out. It makes them feel safe, makes them feel better about their own empty little lives. But here's the fun part. You said nothing, yet they heard everything. Oh, the irony. They twisted your silence into words you never spoke, into crimes you never committed, into intentions you never had. And now you walk around carrying their version of you like a weight on your back, like a ghost of someone you never were. Why? Because deep down, a part of you still cares what they think. A part of you still wants to prove them wrong, to show them who you really are. But let me tell you something, kid. You can't convince people who have already made up their minds. You can't wake up those who are pretending to be asleep. The world doesn't run on truth. It runs on perception. And perception? That's just a fancy word for lies people choose to believe. Look around you. You see those people? The ones who judge, the ones who whisper, the ones who turn away when you enter the room. They don't hate you because of what you did. They hate you because of what they think you did. They hate you because it's easier than admitting they were never paying attention. You ever notice how quiet they get when you stop explaining yourself? That's because they need your words to twist. They need your emotions to manipulate. They need your weakness to feed off. And when you stop giving it to them, they panic. They scramble. They don't know what to do. Because the moment you realize you don't owe them an explanation is the moment you take away their power. But most people, they can't handle that. They need validation. They need closure. They need someone to look them in the eye and say, I was wrong about you. But let's be real. When was the last time you ever heard someone admit they were wrong? That's the game, my friend. And it's rigged. So, what's the move? What do you do now? Now that they've decided who you are. Now that they've built a version of you in their heads that you'll never be able to destroy? Simple. You let them keep it. Let them believe their little stories. Let them whisper. Let them act like they know you. Because while they're busy living in their delusions, you're out here building something real, something they could never touch. That's the difference between you and them. They talk, you move, they assume, you act. They stay in the past, You carve out the future. But to do that, you need to let go of this weight you're carrying, the weight of their words, the weight of their false ideas. You've been holding on to it like a lifeline, but all it's doing is dragging you down. You think if you just hold on long enough, they'll change their minds, that they'll see you for who you really are. But listen to me. They never will. People don't see reality. They see reflections of themselves. They see what they want to see, what makes sense in their little worlds. And you don't fit. You're too different, too real, too raw. And that scares them. So they'll keep talking, keep twisting, keep building this imaginary version of you in their heads. But none of it matters, because at the end of the day, the only thing that defines you is what you do next. So tell me, are you gonna waste your life trying to fix their version of you? Or are you gonna burn it to the ground and build something they can never touch? Because I promise you, the second you stop caring, the second you let go of their nonsense, that's the second you finally get to live. And trust me, kid, living, that's the one thing they never wanted you to do. They never wanted you to live. They wanted you to exist within their little story, their version of reality, where you're nothing more than a character in the background, a mistake, a lesson, a warning. They didn't see you as a person, just a consequence, something they could use, something they could discard when it no longer suited their narrative. And the funniest part? You let them. You sat there, hands tied behind your back, watching them rewrite your life as if you weren't even in the room. You let them dictate your story. Let them decide your worth. Let them carve their names into your skin like you were some kind of canvas for their projections. And now look at you, sitting here, broken, silent, wondering where it all went wrong, wondering how you let it get this far, wondering if there's a way back. Let me tell you something, kid. There is no way back. You don't get to undo what's been done. You don't get to rewrite their lies with your truth. You don't get to make them see you. They won't. They never will. Because the world isn't built on truth. It's built on perception. And perception is a parasite. It latches onto weak minds, infects them, makes them believe in illusions so deeply that they'd rather die than admit they were wrong. You could stand in front of them, screaming the truth until your lungs give out. And it wouldn't matter, because they're not listening. They never were. And that is your greatest weapon. Because if they're not listening, then you're free. Free from their expectations. Free from their judgment. Free from the weight of their opinions that you've been dragging like a corpse behind you. Do you realize how powerful that makes you? They think ignoring you makes them strong. That silence is some kind of punishment. But what they don't understand is that silence is where real monsters are born. You sat in that darkness. You listened, you watched, you learned. You saw them for what they really are. Shallow, fragile creatures hiding behind loud words and fake smiles, clinging to their illusions like children afraid of the dark. But you're not afraid anymore, are you? No, you've seen too much, felt too much, lost too much. Fear isn't in your vocabulary anymore. The only thing left inside you is something far worse, something stronger, something darker, a realization that nothing was ever real, that everything you held on to, every friendship, every promise, every word ever spoken was just noise, meaningless noise. And now, standing here, drowning in the silence they left behind, you finally understand. You were never part of their world. You were never meant to be. You were an intruder, a glitch in their perfect little system. And when they couldn't control you, when they couldn't mold you into what they needed, they erased you. But they made one mistake, one tiny, fatal mistake. They left you alive. And now it's your turn, your move, your game. No more explanations, no more justifications, no more waiting for an apology that will never come. You take everything they threw at you, all the hate, all the doubt, all the betrayal, and you turn it into something they can't ignore. You don't scream, you don't beg, you don't try to make them understand, you show them. With every step forward, every move in silence, every moment they realize you never needed them in the first place, you make them regret ever underestimating you. Because the only thing more terrifying than a man who has nothing to lose is a man who stopped caring whether he wins or loses. That's you now, a force of nature, a storm rolling in. They can smell it in the air, feel it in their bones. They know they made a mistake. They know they should have never pushed you this far. But it's too late now. They had their chance to stand beside you. Now they'll be forced to watch from a distance, unable to stop what's coming. And that is your revenge. Not some cheap, petty act of destruction. No, something much worse. Something more poetic. You succeed. You thrive. You become something so untouchable, so undeniable, that their words, their lies, their entire perception of you shatters under the weight of reality. And the best part? You do it without ever saying a word, because they don't deserve your words. They don't deserve your explanations. They lost that. Right the moment they chose to believe in a version of you that never existed. So let them hear your silence. Let them feel the weight of it. Let it haunt them. Because silence is a weapon. And when used correctly, it cuts deeper than any knife. So tell me, kid, are you done waiting? Are you done hoping? Are you done carrying the burden of people who never cared about you in the first place? Because if you are, if you finally see the truth for what it is, then congratulations. You're free. Free from their illusions. Free from their expectations. Free from the lie that you ever needed their approval to begin with. And that, my friend, is the punchline. But you see, freedom, real freedom, isn't as pretty as they make it sound. It's not sunshine and open roads. No, real freedom, it's cold, it's quiet, it's lonely. Because when you finally break the chains, when you finally stop caring about their opinions, their whispers, their fabricated little stories, something strange happens. The world gets empty. You look around and realize most of the people you once called friends were nothing more than well-dressed spectators, watching your life like it was some kind of tragic play. They never truly cared. They were just there for the entertainment, feeding off your suffering, whispering behind closed doors, waiting for you to break so they could feel a little bit better about themselves. But now you're off the stage. You're no longer their show, no longer their victim, no longer their punchline. And that silence, it terrifies them, because they thrived on your pain, on your reactions, on your desperation to prove them wrong. But when you stop responding, when you stop giving them the fuel they need, they're left with nothing but themselves. And let me tell you, kid, most people don't like looking in the mirror. Most people don't like sitting alone with their own thoughts. That's why they need distractions, drama, gossip, lies. They need something to focus on so they don't have to face the truth about themselves. And what happens when you walk away? When you refuse to play their game? When you disappear into the shadows and leave them behind? Oh, that's when the fun begins. Because suddenly, they start seeing you everywhere. In their regrets, in their failures, in the moments they swore they didn't care about. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. And the best part? They'll never admit it. Never admit that they miss you. Never admit that they were wrong. Never admit that they should have treated you differently. No, they'll pretend. Pretend they never noticed. Pretend you never mattered. Pretend they don't think about you when they lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering why things feel off. But you don't wonder. You already know. You know they never expected you to rise, never expected you to walk away, never expected you to survive without them. They thought they had you figured out, thought you were weak, thought you needed their validation, their approval, their fake, conditional love. But you proved them wrong, not with words, not with arguments, not with desperate pleas for them to understand. You proved them wrong by simply continuing to exist, by moving forward, by becoming something greater than they ever imagined. Because here's the truth, kid. Most people, they're prisoners, trapped in their own minds, in their own patterns, in their own miserable little worlds. They live the same day over and over again, waiting for something to change, too afraid to take the step themselves. They cling to familiarity, even if it destroys them. They hold on to grudges, even if it poisons them. They stay in places, in relationships, in situations that drain them dry, because the alternative the unknown. That terrifies them more than anything, but not you. You've already faced the worst. You've already been abandoned, betrayed, discarded like yesterday's news. You've already felt the sting of loneliness, the burn of disappointment, the suffocating weight of being misunderstood. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still fighting. That's the difference between you and them. You walked through the fire. You didn't run from it. You didn't hide. You didn't beg for mercy. You let it burn away everything that wasn't real. Every fake friend, every empty promise, every illusion you once clung to. And now you're something else entirely. Something they don't understand. Something they fear. Because they can't control you anymore. They can't break you. Can't manipulate you. Can't use you like they used to. You've seen the truth now. And once you see it, there's no going back. So let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them sit in their little circles, whispering about who they think you are. Because while they're busy trying to piece together the puzzle, trying to figure out where you went, what you're doing, what's going on inside your head, you're out there building something real, something untouchable. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need them to understand. All you need is the silence. The beautiful, deafening silence of not giving a damn. Because the second you stop chasing validation, the second you stop explaining yourself, the second you stop caring about their little narratives, that's when you become truly dangerous. And trust me, kid, that's exactly what they're afraid of. But you see, kid, fear is a funny thing. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself with a grand entrance. No, fear is quiet. It sneaks in through the cracks, buries itself deep, settles into the bones. And the thing they fear the most, it isn't your anger. It isn't your words. It isn't even your success. No. What terrifies them, what keeps them awake at night, what makes them avoid looking in the mirror, is your indifference. Because the moment you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop defending yourself, that's the moment they realize they never had any power over you to begin with. And that is what breaks them. Because control was all they ever had. They controlled you with their words, their judgment, their expectations. They controlled you by making you doubt yourself, by making you question if maybe, just maybe, they were right about you. And for a while, you played along. You let their opinions sink in. Let their voices echo in your mind. Let their twisted version of reality become a weight you carried on your back. But then something happened, didn't it? You woke up. You saw through the illusion. You realized the bars of the cage weren't real, that you had been holding yourself prisoner this whole time. And the second you saw it, the second you understood that their words only had power because you let them, everything changed. You stopped explaining yourself. Stopped trying to prove anything to anyone. Stopped letting their perception dictate your reality. And that silence? Oh, that silence was louder than any scream you could have ever given them. Because when you stop reacting, when you stop feeding their little game, they start to panic. They start to wonder if maybe they got it wrong, if maybe they underestimated you, if maybe, just maybe, they made the wrong move. And nothing eats them alive more than the thought that you don't need them anymore. Because that's the truth, isn't it? You don't. You never did. They needed you. Needed someone to blame. Needed someone to project their insecurities onto. Needed someone to make them feel bigger, better, more important. But you never needed them. And now that you see it, now that you've cut the strings and walked away, they don't know what to do. Because without you, without the version of you they built in their minds, they're left with the one thing they've spent their whole lives running from: themselves. And let me tell you something, kid. People will do anything to avoid facing themselves. They will lie, cheat, manipulate, destroy. Anything to avoid looking in the mirror and seeing the truth staring back at them. Because the truth, it's ugly. It's raw. It doesn't come with a pretty filter or a soft glow. It's brutal. And once you see it, there's no unseeing it. But you didn't run. You faced it. Faced yourself. Faced your demons. Faced every painful, bitter, soul-crushing thing they ever threw at you. And instead of breaking, instead of crumbling under the weight of it, you took it all and built something stronger. That's why they hate you. Not because of what you did, not because of what you said, but because of what you survived. Because they know, deep down in the places they don't talk about, that if they had been in your shoes, if they had gone through what you went through, they wouldn't have made it. They would have folded, given up, let the weight crush them. But you didn't. You clawed your way out, dragged yourself forward. And now you stand there, untouchable, unshaken, while they sit in their comfortable little lies, pretending they don't see you. But they do. Oh, they do. They see you in the silence, in the way you don't flinch anymore, in the way you walk like a ghost through their world, untouched, unbothered, unbroken. They see you in their regrets, in their insecurities, in the quiet moments when they realize that they could have had your loyalty, your trust, your presence, but they threw it away. And now all they have left is the echo of what they lost. So let them talk, let them whisper, let them pretend, because while they're drowning in their own self-made misery, you're free. Not just from them, but from everything. And that, my friend, that is something they will never have. Because freedom, real freedom, it isn't about revenge. It isn't about proving anyone wrong. It isn't about making them see. making them regret, making them understand. No, real freedom is looking at the people who once tried to break you and realizing they don't matter anymore. They never did. They never will. And that is the greatest victory of all. But victory is a strange thing. It doesn't come with applause. No one hands you a trophy. There's no crowd, no celebration, no grand recognition. It's quiet. Just like the war you fought was quiet. It wasn't a battle with swords or fists. It was fought in the dead of night, in the corners of your mind, in the moments no one saw. You weren't bleeding on the outside, but inside, inside you were a battlefield. And the scars you carry, they aren't the kind people notice. They're the kind that live in the silence, in the pauses between words, in the way you look at the world differently now, like you've seen something others haven't. Because you have. You've seen what happens when the mask comes off, when people show their real faces, when the ones you thought would stand beside you are the first to disappear. You've seen how easy it is for people to turn their backs, to rewrite history, to act like you never existed when it's convenient for them. And that changes you. You don't walk the same way anymore. You don't talk the same way anymore. Something in you has shifted, hardened, solidified into something they can't touch. And now that you stand on the other side, looking back at everything that tried to destroy you, you realize something that makes you laugh. Not the kind of laugh that comes from joy, but the kind that comes from understanding, from seeing the joke the universe has been playing all along. The ones who betrayed you, the ones who left you, the ones who made you question everything, they were never strong. They were never in control. They were never the ones with the power. You were. Because they needed you. They needed your kindness, your loyalty, your presence. They needed the way you made them feel important. Needed the way you carried their weight. Needed the way you listened when no one else would. And when they lost you, when they pushed too far, cut too deep, burned the bridge to ashes, they lost more than they will ever admit. But you didn't lose anything, because people like that, they weren't meant to stay. They were lessons. They were reminders. They were the flames that burned away everything false, leaving you with nothing but the truth. And the truth is this: when you walk away, when you stop explaining, when you let the silence speak for you, you force them to sit with what they've done. You force them to confront the reality they've been running from. And that is justice. Not the kind you find in movies, not the kind that comes with revenge or dramatic confrontations. No, the real kind. The kind where they wake up one day and realize they destroyed something they'll never get back. The kind where they go searching for you in every person they meet, only to find that no one else will ever compare. The kind where they finally understand far too late that losing you was the worst mistake they ever made. And by then, you won't even care. Because you'll be too far ahead, too focused on what's next, too busy building a life they'll never be a part of. That's the ultimate punishment. Not hate, not revenge, not proving them wrong, just moving on. Because when you move on, when you take everything they did, everything they said, everything they tried to break you with, and you turn it into fuel, when you rise, not out of spite, not out of anger, but because you refuse to let their actions define you, that's when you win, and they know it. Oh, they know it. They feel it in the way your name lingers in conversations they try to avoid, in the way they scroll past your success, pretending it doesn't burn them inside, in the way they catch glimpses of you in crowds, only to realize it's just a ghost of what they threw away. And you just keep walking, because the past doesn't exist anymore. Not for you, not for the person you've become, because this version of you, the one who survived, who endured, who learned to stand alone without apology or explanation, this version of you doesn't look back. And that, my friend, that is the only closure you will ever need. But here's the thing, kid. Closure isn't real. It's a lie they sell you. A fairy tale wrapped in pretty words to keep you chasing something that doesn't exist. They want you to believe that one day you'll get the apology, the explanation, the moment where everything finally makes sense. But you won't. Because people don't change overnight. They don't wake up one day and suddenly see the truth. No, they double down. They rewrite history in their minds, convince themselves they were never wrong, that you were the problem, that they had every right to do what they did. Because facing reality, that takes strength, and strength is rare. So you keep waiting for the confession, the regret, the moment they finally see you the way they should have. But the longer you wait, the more you realize it's not coming. There is no grand moment of justice. No cinematic reunion where they admit they were wrong and beg for your forgiveness. No, the only thing that happens is time. Time keeps moving, and you either move with it or you stay stuck, waiting for a ghost that will never return. That's the choice, isn't it? That's what it all comes down to. Are you going to live in the past? Let it own you? Let it dictate your every thought? Or are you going to bury it? Not for them. Not because they deserve your peace, but because you do. Because dragging the weight of what they did will only slow you down. And the truth is, they don't care. They're not losing sleep over it. They're not carrying guilt on their shoulders. So why should you? Why should you be the one suffering for their mistakes? You think letting go is weak. You think walking away means they won. But it's the opposite. Walking away means you win. It means you've stripped them of their power, taken back control, refused to let their poison live in your mind. Because that's what they want, you know? They want you broken. They want you bitter. They want you clinging to the past, drowning in the what-ifs. Because as long as you're stuck there, you'll never move forward. You'll never be free. And freedom, oh, freedom is what they fear the most. Because the moment you stop caring, the moment you stop looking back, the moment you stop wishing for something that will never happen, that's the moment they lose control. That's the moment they become irrelevant. That's the moment you rise. Truly rise. Not just in success, not just in strength, but in something far greater. Indifference. And indifference? It's colder than hate, deadlier than revenge. Because hate means you still feel something. Revenge means they still occupy space in your mind. But indifference? Indifference means they are nothing. Just shadows. Just a name you used to know. Just faces you pass on the street without a second glance. And when they realize that, when they realize they no longer affect you, no longer have any piece of you left to hold on to, that's when it truly hits them. That's when the regret sets in. But by then, you won't even notice, because you'll be too far ahead, too focused on what matters, too busy building the life they swore you'd never have, too untouchable for their words, their opinions, their little games to even register. And that is the greatest revenge of all. Not proving them wrong, not making them see, just living. Living so far beyond them, so far removed from their world, that they realize too late that they never had a hold on you at all. That the person they tried to break, he didn't just survive, he became unstoppable.